Good evening and welcome back to our Parsha webcast, our weekly class on the portion of the week. This week, the portion that we are learning is the portion of Emor. And before I zero in on one subject, as I always do, I will give you a quick synopsis of the subject matter that is discussed in this parsha. It begins with the instructions and the laws that were given to the Kohanim, to the priests. Who they're allowed to marry, who they're not allowed to marry, who they're allowed to be, how they're allowed to defile themselves for, meaning if someone dies, if they're allowed to tend to the body, who they're not allowed to. Because a priest has to maintain a certain level of purity.
No divorced woman.
Not right. They can't marry a divorced woman. That's true. And a Kohen Gadol can't marry a widow. There's all kinds of laws. And then it talks about the law regarding the Kohanim. If they have a blemish in their body, they're not of perfect form, they can't serve in the temple. And he goes through the different blemishes in the body that would disqualify a Kohen from serving. And and then he says that that people that are impure in general are not allowed to serve in the temple or bring sacrifices. If they're impure, they have contact with the dead or other types of impurity that comes from the body, all kinds of things. The second half of the portion, he talks about all the laws of the holidays. All the Jewish holidays are in this week's portion. The commandment to observe Pesach, Shavuos, the counting of the Omer, the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah. Except for Hanukkah. No, not Hanukkah and Purim, of course not. But Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, it's all in this week's Torah portion. The mitzvahs that involved with these holidays and so on. So that's a quick synopsis of this portion. Now, one of the mitzvahs in this portion is, and this is a very important mitzvah it's very timely, is the mitzvah of the counting of the Omer. We do it every night. Are you familiar with the mitzvah counting of the Omer? Counting of the Omer is, I'll tell you what it is.
It's tomorrow.
It's what?
You're doing something tomorrow?
No, that's Lag BaOmer. We'll get to that in a minute. Counting of the Omer is a 49-day mitzvah. We do it every day for 49 days, from the second day of Passover till the day before Shavuos. And once you finish counting the 49 days, you then observe the Yom Tov of Shavuos, which is about 3 weeks. Yom HaBikurim, exactly. Now, in the counting of the Omer, in the days of the Omer, there's one day that's called Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer happens to be, Lag is Lamed Gimel, the 33rd day of the Omer. It's a special holiday. Because on that day, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the great Tanaic, Mishnaic sage, who lived about 1900 years ago, died on that day. And he requested that that day should be a holiday among Jews. A celebration. And the reason it's celebrated is because Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is associated, and he is with the Zohar, with the book known as the Zohar. The Zohar is a very deep, mystical, esoteric interpretation of the Torah, and he authored it. We're told the story that when he was in a cave for 13 years, miracles happened. He was sustained miraculously, him and his son. And the wisdom, this esoteric wisdom of the Torah was revealed to him. And he put it down on paper in the form of the book that we call today the Zohar, the Holy Zohar. The word Zohar means light, because he did indeed bring down a great light into the world. The inner dimension of the Torah, the soul of the Torah, the esoteric knowledge of the Torah is a great light, and it was then concealed for a very long time, until mainly the days of the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria in the 16th century, who took the Zohar and expounded on it, and to him was revealed tremendous wisdom from heaven, from God, and he gave us the whole teachings of the Kabbalah. Everyone heard of Kabbalah, right? There's the Arizal, the Rabbi Isaac Luria in the 16th century revealed the Kabbalah, but it's based on the Zohar. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who died on Lag BaOmer, on the 33rd date of the Omer, is associated mostly with the esoteric the wisdom of the Torah. Later on, the Baal Shem Tov and the Hasidic movement began to expound on the Kabbalistic tradition and formulated it and taught it and wrote about it, and that's the Hasidus that we learn all the time, especially Chabad Hasidus. So that's Lag BaOmer. But Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day within this 49-day period called the counting of the Omer. And in the Torah it says like this: you shall count for yourselves from the morrow of the rest day, from Shabbos. That means referring to the first day of Pesach. From the next day after the first day of Pesach means the second day of Pesach. From the day when you bring the Omer of the waving. This is a special Omer offering that is brought. It's a measurement of flour. It's actually not flour, it's actually barley. It's actually barley that is brought as this offering. And you will, the day that you bring the Omer offering, from then you should count 49 days. And on the 50th day you will observe Shavuos. Which, by the way, I will mention that Shavuos is the only holiday of all the Jewish holidays that does not have a calendar date associated with it. Every other Yom Tov does. Rosh Hashanah is on the first day of that month. Pesach is the 15th day. It says in the Torah, the 15th day of the first month, you'll observe Pesach. The 15th day of the 7th month, you'll do Sukkot. The first day of the 7th month, you'll do Rosh Hashanah. It doesn't say anywhere what day of the month Shavuos is. And why is that?
It's 49 days from the...
Because it doesn't depend on the day of the month, it depends on the count from Pesach. You count 49 days and the 50th day will be Shavuos. And here's an interesting detail and law associated with this. Let's take, for example, a person who was in America on Pesach, so he started counting the counting. Let's say me, today. Last night, what did we count? 30. Right? Last night was 30. So imagine I counted over here 30, and then I went, and I flew to Australia this morning. I took a flight and I went to Australia. I come to Australia, and I lost a day, right? So I arrived there, what's today? Monday morning. I arrived there on Wednesday morning. I didn't have a Tuesday. So what do I do on Wednesday night? What do I count on Wednesday night? So let's say on Monday night on the plane, it's still dark, I'm going to count 31. But what do I do on Wednesday night when I get there? That's the next, for me, it's the next day. I don't have a Tuesday. 32. So for me, it's, what do I do? 32. I can't count 33. The people in Australia are already counting 33, because they did have a Tuesday. I'm still counting 32.
Right. They started a day before you.
They did start a day before me. I lost a day. Yeah, so I'm there now, and I stay there for Shavuos, right? So the day before Shavuos, they're counting 49, and I'm still 48. So when do I do Shavuos?
Have to get on the plane.
When do I do Shavuos? No, I'm not coming back. If I'm not coming back, when do I do Shavuos?
You're 49.
What are we going to do?
Your following day.
I'm going to do Shavuos a day after them.
The 50th day.
For my 50th day. If the Torah would say that Shavuos is on the 6th day of the month of Sivan, then that's the 6th day. I have to do it with them. But it doesn't give me a calendar day. It has nothing to do with the calendar. It has to do with my count. I'm counting now 49 days. That's my Shavuos. It's going to be the 50th day. So imagine I'm in Australia in such a situation. They're making Kiddush. Let's say tonight they're making Kiddush and I'm not. To me, it's still the day before. Imagine, how about the other way around? If an Australian flies to here, so he's already counting tonight 32. To him, it's already 32. To me, it's still not, and I'm still a day behind. So he's going to do Shavuos a day before us. So the Rebbe instructed that people shouldn't cross the date line in the days of the Yomer. For that reason.
Oh, yeah.
If you can avoid it, you should. So people who have to fly to Australia during these 49 days, they go through London, through Asia, through the other way. So they're going with the sun, so they're not missing a day.
They celebrate together.
So they have it together, yeah.
Excuse me, all this counting is important actually in Israel because after the 49th day you bring a sacrifice to the temple, Chag HaAsif.
Shavuot.
Yeah.
That's
so the importance of it is in Israel actually.
No, now they don't bring offerings. There's no temple to bring offerings to. So let me explain to you now for a moment the significance of this mitzvah. And again, this is very much closely associated with everything we learned in Tanya. We just learned in chapter 31 in Tanya at the end that the Jewish people ran away from Egypt. Right? Why did they run away from Egypt, we learned? Because their soul was only the soul was inspired by the revelation that took place in Egypt that night. But every other aspect of them, every other part of them, their human soul, their body, they were still Egyptian-like very much. They didn't get carried away with that revelation, right? So the neshama kind of ran from this evil. So the body ran with it, but it was the neshama that was running, right? Because the body was still very, very much drawn, very much attracted to Egypt, to all the negativity and evil that Egypt represented. Right? Let's take, for example, an addict. A person that has an addiction to whatever, to something very bad. And he tries to work on himself. And he has a tremendous desire to fix himself. Something happened, his father gave him a pep talk, or a great rabbi got hold of his neshama, and he has now this tremendous desire to become a mensch. But right now, let's say he's addicted to drugs. So the rabbi comes to him in his apartment, and he has all his friends over there, and they're all smoking, and it's all stinks, it's gefährlich, right? I once found myself in such an apartment to help a young man out of this. Can't imagine. So the rabbi talks to him, and he inspires his soul. What does this kid have to do? He has to run out of that apartment like a rocket ship. He can't stay there for another second. He has to run. Why? Because his body is still attracted to that nonsense. If his body is no longer attracted, the rabbi doesn't have to run out of there. The rabbi is not in a rush. There's no problem for the rabbi. The rabbi has no problem. He can sit there and talk to them and fabreng with them, and it's all good. He's not going to smoke one cigarette of that nonsense. Because it's not his thing. But the addict has to run from there. He has to run cold, exactly. So the neshama in Egypt was inspired by God. God revealed himself that night, a tremendous revelation. But the body was still addicted to that place. So the neshama is saying to the body, good, listen to God. He doesn't know what you're talking about. He's not inspired by God. So what does the neshama have to do? Schlep him out in a haste. So that's what happened with Rosh Hashanah. I'm sorry, that's what happened on Pesach. I said Rosh Hashanah. I meant Pesach. But then God said, wait a minute, the purpose of Pesach was, as we know, to go to Sinai, right? What will God want? That we should just leave Egypt? That's not enough. He wants us to go to Mount Sinai. He said to Mount Sinai, you can't come with your addictions. This is not a program. This is not a plan. I can't have you on Mount Sinai and you're addicted to Egypt while I'm talking to you about the profound wisdom. This is not going to work. I'm going to come down on Mount Sinai with my whole essence. I'm going to reveal to you the true essence of Hashem, and you're still going to be attracted to hashish. That's not going to work. So he says, I can't take you to Sinai right now. You guys have to cleanse yourself from all that negativity.
49 days from that day.
So you have to cleanse yourself from all that negativity. I can't sit and have an intimate gathering with you at Mount Sinai while you're thinking about Egypt. I need you. It's not enough for me, you're neshama. I need your whole existence to be part of this. I need every part of you at Mount Sinai. You need to be in full attention to what I'm going to be talking about. Which means you have to completely rid yourself from all those addictions and from all those negative attractions. So he says, you're not ready for Sinai yet. So he says, from the day after you leave Egypt, you're going to start counting. You're going to start counting 49 days. Why 49? 1 second, we're not there yet. No, I'm sorry, not yet. He says, the day after Pesach, you're going to bring an Omer offering. You're going to bring an Omer offering. What is this Omer offering going to consist of? A measure of barley, which is very strange, because every other meal offering in the temple was brought from what? From wheat. Not from barley. Barley is not a temple type of ingredient. You know what you do with barley? You feed it to your chickens. Don't feed it to God. What's God bring? What do you bring barley into the temple for? Do chickens eat barley, or is it only real animals, domesticated animals? It's animal fodder. It's not you. What do we bring it to the temple for? Why is God requesting for animal fodder for? And the answer that the Rebbe gives in the Maimer, and it's truth, the Alter Rebbe already discusses this at great length. Because the whole purpose of the 49 days is to make sure that at Mount Sinai we have every part of you, not only your neshama, but your whole animalistic side. Right? That's what he wants at Mount Sinai. He doesn't just want your neshama. He says, that's why you're not coming right away. I need you. You're going to take a hiatus of 49 days to get rid of all your addictions, to make your body and your animal soul a mensch. So the Hashem says, bring that offering of animal food, because this offering is meant to jumpstart the process of the animal becoming a shtikul mensch. It's not about the neshama, which is the human aspect of you. It's about the animal aspect. So you bring an animalistic animal fodder, animal food as this offering, because this is going to jumpstart the process of your animal side, your animal reality, to become part of the process of the Exodus. And then he says you start counting 49 days, because the animal offering itself is the general representation of the elevation of the animal side within us to God. But it's not enough to talk in general terms. You have to then bring it down to practice. So he says that's going to take 49 days. Why 49? So those of you who learned a little of Kabbalah and Chassidus will have known already that the animal soul has 7 attributes, and each one is intertwined with all 7, which makes a total for 49. So every day we are to then perfect and undamage another part of the animal reality. Once that happens, then you can come to Mount Sinai and enter into the 50th level. The 50th level is the essence of Hashem, where you're one, and once you're in there, you never leave. You can't leave. This, by the way, this 3-part process, Pesach, the Omer, 49 days, and Shavuos, this one, it's really one unit with 3 parts. is hinted in a verse in King Solomon's Song of Songs. King Solomon says, now what, this is a profound statement that he makes. He says like this to God. He's, as you know, the Song of Songs is a very it's a beautiful book. You ever read it? Did you read the Song of Songs? It's a metaphor for the love that the Jewish people, that God has to the Jewish people. So he talks in terms of a husband and a wife. The love between a husband and a wife. And over there he says, the soul says to God, Moshcheni, Acharecha Narutza, Haviyani Hamelech Hadorov. He said, the soul says to God, Moshcheni, draw me. Acharecha Narutza, after you we will run. Haviyani Hamelech Hadorov, the king who shall bring me into his inner chamber, to his bedroom. To his inner chamber. What does the Hasidic masters tell us? That this verse, King Solomon is talking about Pesach, the Omer days, and Shavuos. And he says like this, they emphasize every word. Moshcheni means draw me. The word Moshcheni, if you know Hebrew, is in the singular. This is the neshama talking to God and saying, please draw me. Bring me close to you. Only me, only the neshama, not the animal side. Because that's a reference to what happened on Pesach. What happened on Pesach, as I just mentioned it before. God revealed himself that night, right? Nigla aleim melech malchei amlochem hakadosh baruch hu u'ga'olam. Nachon? It says it in the Haggadah. The king of kings, revealed himself to them that night and redeemed them. We say it in the Haggadah, right? Anyone remember that statement from the Haggadah? It's in there. Trust me. Look it up. You'll see.
You fall asleep at this part already.
At this part already, everyone is sleeping. It's at the end, actually. So, the neshama is saying to God, draw me, because that's what happened on Pesach. The revelation, who was inspired, what was drawn, just the neshama. The animal still was addicted to all the nonsense of Egypt. But then the neshama continues, if you do that, you'll draw me that night on Pesach, Acharecha Narutza, we will then run after you, plural. Because I will then get my animal soul to get involved in this process. We'll both go after you. We'll both be drawn to. We'll both pursue you. That's going to be in the 49 days of the Omer, when we're going to work over the animal soul as well. And then Hashvu is, once we both reach that level, is that God will bring us into his inner chamber. What's the inner chamber? Where the essence of Hashem was revealed in Torah, in the giving of the Torah. And when a Yid does a mitzvah, and when he learns Torah, especially when he engages in learning Torah, any part of the Torah, he is in an intimate moment with God. It's a royal embrace, where you and God literally fuse and become one existence. You go into the inner chamber and you are in an intimate moment with God. So that is what we're involved right now. We're in the middle of this whole process. Counting of the Yomer, the whole thing. And let me just conclude with one word about Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is, we don't know that yesterday they had a big party over here, and they brought me music and a CD, and it was beautiful. And I come into the room and I say, sorry, you have to turn off the music. I said, why? Because we're in the middle of the Omer days. So in the Omer days you can't play music. Why not? The answer is because there was a terrible tragedy that happened to the Jewish people in this period. Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students. Rabbi Akiva, the great Rabbi Akiva. It wasn't a massacre. They died. They all died. The students all died in a plague. No, it was a plague. It was a plague. They all died. And because of that terrible event, we mourn for every year in these days. But it says on Lag BaOmer they stopped dying. They finished dying. The plague was over. And there were some students that did not die. How many students didn't die? 5.
7.
I think 5. But those 5 rebuilt Judaism. So that's why it's a day of joy. Lag BaOmer is a day of joy, because God spared the Jewish people with allowing those 5. You know why it says they died? Why would they punish like this?
They argue with
Because
each other too much.
They did not show respect to each other.
That's why also, if I'm not wrong, the second temple fell, because
Sinat Chinam. They didn't have Sinat Chinam. It doesn't say they had.
It wasn't
no,
Sinat
God
Chinam.
forbid. Akiva's students are going to hate each other.
Just
No,
argumental.
they didn't have they didn't show respect. So the Rebbe explains that what does it mean they didn't show respect? They didn't hate, and God forbid they would hate. Their teacher was the one that taught them that Ahavat Yisrael is the main cardinal rule of the whole Torah. How could they not have Ahavat Yisrael? They had Ahavat Yisrael, but what happens? You know what happens when you have Ahavat Yisrael? Let's take an example. Me and you are standing by a Farbrengen of the Rebbe. Yeah? Imagine this. You and me are standing at a Farbrengen of the Rebbe in 770. And the Rebbe is speaking for 2 hours on a subject. On an issue. And we're 2 different minds. So we're going to absorb that information in 2 very different ways.
Yeah.
You're going to understand it according to your perspective, and I will understand it based on my own perspective, my own perceptions. Now you and me, the Rebbe walks out of the Farbrengen, I love the Rebbe and I love you. So I'm now, and I have a tremendous desire to make sure that you understand what the Rebbe said. So I'm saying, did you hear, Meir? Did you hear? Did you follow what the Rebbe was saying? Such an important message. He said, sure, I followed. He was saying this. That's not what the Rebbe said. He said just the opposite. He said something entirely different. No, this is what he said. So they began to argue with each other, and in the process not show respect. It was a result of their love for one another. I want you to understand because I love you, but I didn't have the appreciation to understand that you too have a perspective. That was what they lacked. They didn't lack love for each other. It was because they loved each other.
And for this?
And for this, they tzaddikim. The righteous, God is very exacting. When they do something wrong for you, I mean, it would be nothing wrong. For them, it's already an infringement, and they get paid.
What kind of a disease or a plague was it?
What exactly it was, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if it says what it was exactly. So it was their love for each other and their commitment to their master Rabbi Akiva that they wanted so much that each other understand it, but they only allowed for their own perspective to be a legitimate perspective. So as long as you didn't understand it the way I did, you were not understanding it. I was convinced that you didn't understand it, so I drove you crazy until you understood it my way. And that was where they clashed. Was the lesson. The lesson is that you have to be a little more concerned and more open-minded to your fellow. He too has a mind, and he too understands. Not that he doesn't understand. Allow a different perspective on the table. Allow for a different perspective. That's the lesson. Have a wonderful night, everyone.